Welcome back, everybody, to the Nerding Grounds podcast. This is a weekly show about video games, new and old.
and
And
stuff.
yep, you're here with myself, Quinn, and my bestie, Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hi.
How are you doing this week?
Pretty good.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are gathered here today to talk about some updates, but most importantly, we are going to do our fourth retrospective episode on Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there in a little bit. Feel free to fast forward to the retrospective corner. You'll see the graphics if that's all you're here for. No judgment. Up front, I just wanted to let everybody know that they can send us questions to thenerdinggrounds@gmail.com. I've been saying at the end of the show, and I just don't want anybody to miss it. So if you do have questions, recommendations, anything, that'd be great. Also, we do have a Patreon. Not that we're saying anybody has to contribute to that if they don't feel the need to. We totally understand. We're happy with just sharing and following on our channel. So if you're doing that, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But if for some reason you did want to show additional support, we do have options at Patreon. And we can find something to sweeten the pot if someone decides they want to join our Patreon. So
Potentially.
yeah, potentially. But also just keep doing what you're doing. We love the questions. We love the comments and stuff.
We do.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep it coming.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to do is just a little reminder of the upcoming games of August that we've been talking about or are excited for. So we have Bomb Rush Cyberpunk coming on the 17th of August. We talked about that last episode, kind of a jet set radio
Yeah.
spiritual successor. So that's coming out real soon. I did confirm that. I just wanted to make sure it was said for sure here. Immortals of Avium was one that we talked about a couple months back. That's coming out on the 22nd, which I totally forgot about, but
Yeah.
that one's coming too. Armored Core, which we're definitely both going to play and do probably a full episode on once we get our hands on that, is the 25th. So you can probably expect that episode in September. And then we talked about Sea of Stars last time, and that's coming out on August 29th. So
August. It's packed.
it
It
turned
is
out to
really
be a
packed.
really packed month. It was
Yeah.
unexpected.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do when Armored Core comes out.
Yeah, I don't know, but I need to finish Final Fantasy 16 before I get there, and I think I'm approaching the last, like, I don't know, 20% of the game. I've played a lot, but there's
Right.
still, judging by my skill tree, there's still a lot to go. And then one that just popped up this week was Red Dead Redemption. They're not remaking it, not necessarily remastering it. It's just a straight up port, and it's coming to Switch and PS4. They said explicitly Switch and PS4.
It's weird, right? That's like, what?
Yeah, it I mean, I think they put it through like a up-res filter. It's basically a PlayStation 3 port. And we just found out today they're charging $50 for it, and I think that's really shitty.
That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, it's not like I don't want to play that on the Switch for one. That just doesn't seem like. I know it's kind of old, but I I
I
don't know
mean,
how that's gonna run. Um,
I think it'll run fine. I mean, it is Rockstar, and I think they had plans to fully remake that game
right.
in the Red Dead 2 and GTA
Oh, you said
5
Red Dead
engine.
Redemption. Yeah, I'm thinking the second one. I was like, what?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption, the first one
That's
that was on Xbox or PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
right.
Um,
Okay.
and that's going to be $50, and it's not even a remaster. So it's really crappy.
Just trying to hop on that gravy train, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think they got tussled a little bit when they re-released the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, and that was met with a very bad reception. Which I thought it was fine, but it definitely wasn't as good as it could have been. And so I think they scrapped the plan to remake Red Dead Redemption.
But instead, they're just upresing it and porting it to Switch
Yeah.
and PlayStation 4? Question
Which
mark.
I would have spent $20 on that and played it, but $50 for a
Yeah.
game that has had no work done to it.
Yeah. What? It's like no, and the game's kind of just archaic at this point. You know,
It's like
I
13 years old.
I really don't understand that one at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's what's upcoming. We could do a quick little check-in on what we've been playing. Matt, do you have anything you want to go over? A game that you
Yeah,
played
I
recently?
have been playing Baldur's Gate 3 excessively. Like I can't put it down. Like I
That's
just
good.
can't. I don't know. You got to play it. I get it. We've had that conversation,
Yeah.
and I totally
Yeah.
get that conversation. Um, that type of game is a lot, right? It's a lot to get
It's a
into.
lot.
It's typical a lot of text, but I mean there's a reason why the Divinity 1 and 2 have just received so much praise. It's I think Larian is really just have if nothing else, the pacing of
Mm-hmm.
those games just down packed. Like they break everything down into little acts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each act is its own like big area, um, almost just a giant like playground of different quests and its own like backstory going on. Um, which I mean, I guess a lot of like really good games in the past have kind of done that, but you kind of just going through and shaping the world around you in this one particular area before moving on.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you can kind of just go around, do whatever you want. And I'm doing like some really, really crazy things sometimes, which I definitely enjoyed. I was really enjoying about the Divinity too. Um, and of course, they brought a lot of those ideas over to this one.
Yeah, and it seems to be doing that thing where it's unexpectedly breaching a lot of different fan bases that you wouldn't expect. Like everybody is kind of playing it.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with
I
the
think a
news
lot of
cycle and
people
the
are
coverage.
hopping onto it at this point. Yeah, it's a news coverage, and I think it's the idea of the just like you could tell they threw
Having sex with
everything.
bears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you can have.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what
Oh
it.
yeah, or vampires. Whatever you want. You know.
Whatever you want to consensually sleep with, you
Yeah,
can do it in this game.
exactly. Worshippers of Thar and all that good stuff.
I do think it's funny that people are getting, their streams bombed by nudity, and they're like, "Oh no,
Yeah. Well, there's an option I think to like
just
turn all
turn it
that stuff
off." Yeah,
off, but if you're
I'm
playing
sure.
by
Yeah,
yourself, you probably just,
well, and that's not the kind of game that I guess, some people might be doing it just for the hits, but that's
right.
not the type of game that you typically think about that in. Like I don't know. I don't know that I'd turn on a CRPG and just be like, all right, let's go make sure there's no explicit content that's going to get my stream taken down.
Right.
But you can see, like, Cyberpunk, everybody knew about it. They talked about the genitals and the nudity options before release and all
Well,
that
it's
stuff, and they sent out
kind of on the
warnings.
same level of that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Minus all the sex working. But
yeah.
yeah, it's very much so on the same level as that.
I mean, I know that I'm going to play it eventually. I just, with between Final Fantasy and
Yeah, no,
Armored Core
it's
coming, I'm like, there's no window for me to play that right now. It might be a fall, pre-holiday game. I'll get it on sale or something,
right.
and it's not going anywhere.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
But it's great. It does feel like uh, everybody's trying to just for lack of a better word, fuck you, because and not physically, like, you know, like literally just mess you over. Like
Stab
no
you
one
in the back.
seems like they're really on your side ever. And and like so like the plot basically, minor spoilers, but not really. You kind of already know this by now. You get infected by a mind flayer tadpole.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first act, there's like not a billion, but there's several different ways that you can go about trying to get it removed, or not if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like everybody is just out to manipulate you and take advantage of the situation. And that gets a little like heavy because you're kind of like, this just seems wrong, right? Like I know this is wrong at this point because that guy and that girl and this person tried to fuck me over, so I know this person's just trying to fuck me over.
Yeah, it's the
It
Game
gets
of
a little
Thrones
interesting.
effect. There's always got to
Yeah,
be, you know, subterfuge going on behind the scenes.
and there's a lot of that. There
Well,
is definitely a lot of that going on.
you need drama, I
Yeah.
guess. That's the easiest way to get it.
Yeah, you just have to play it for it's
To make sense, yeah.
I mean, I kept it's you just sifting through the lies and trying to figure out your way for this world. But even your companions at first, all of them seem to have like just like a lot of baggage, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose it's good character development. Um, but even, some of the more, like, let's say you have this one person that everybody likes, like the rogue thief dude carrying around, and he's a total asshole, right? He's just big dick, and everything you do that's any kind of like just he doesn't like.
He's that guy at the D&D night who's just like, I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah,
doing I'm doing the exact opposite.
I'm gonna be evil because it's
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna be evil.
uh you can't be good. What are you doing? Right.
Yeah, it's the contrarian of the party.
Right. And I mean, all of them, none of them are necessarily like, some are good. Some
Mhm.
are he's definitely more not bad, just we should do whatever we want sort of thing. Um, but you kind of start to learn a little bit more about his backstory as you go along. And it's kind of like, okay, I can kind of start to see why he's a dick.
What yeah.
You know? There's a lot of
They're
stuff
really
like
good
that
at
going
that.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good at that. Well, I did get to a point last or over the weekend where I was like, I need to play something that's not so, you know, just I don't know. I just heavy and
Goose.
like everything and just I needed to get away from the Tears of the Kingdom and
Right.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah,
And
you've been playing
so
some really heavy shit for sure.
yes, yes, absolutely. And so my mind was just a little numb and I'm like I need to play something easy, straightforward. I decided to play Little Nightmares 1. Um
Oh yeah, okay.
because it was on my PS4 and I was just like yeah, I'm in PS5 and I was like yeah, I played the second one a
We
while
get it. You
back.
have a PS5.
It's not that crazy anymore. I just sent
I
you a
know,
sale
I
this
know,
morning.
I know.
I played the second one a while back and I loved it. And I was like, well, it's really weird that I haven't played the first one, so I need to go do that. And I went through it over the weekend after like 3 sessions of playing. I think it was only like 5 hours, not counting the DLC. But it's just a really well made side scroller puzzle game. And it's, obviously the main thing that's driving that game is the art and the fact that they've crafted just these nightmarish environments and creatures and a lot of the time you're running away and hiding, but where I don't really like that in a game like Outlast or something, in here it's a 2D side scroller platformer, so it's a little bit more fun to
Right.
to work out those sneaking areas and stuff, and you can really explore the 3 dimensions or the 2.5 dimension thing that's going on. But it's just really a well-made game. And then I got super sad when I looked up and realized the studio was bought and kind of changed after Little Nightmares 2. And so it does sound like there's a 3 coming, Bandai Namco stated that it's being worked on, but I think it's going to be a different team, or at least not all of the same team. So I'm a
Right.
little worried about that, but I would really like a third one.
Of course.
Those games are good.
Nature of the video game industry, or all industries, but especially that. It's like, well, I mean, they definitely have a lot of source material to look at, but
It's like whenever you have a gem of an indie game, like something that just really sets the bar, and just kind of invades the public space, somebody's got to mess with that studio and just kind of ruin it. And it sucks. It's like once you
yeah,
find a video game that really just becomes a hit, but you know,
right. And I don't know. I'm not a business person, so maybe I just want to even comment because it's kind of like I understand buying the studio. I understand
yeah,
selling the studio
I
too.
do too.
I'm sure those people made a lot of money, right?
Yeah, and I
Um,
want I want people to get success off of their hard work, and it's
yeah,
just yeah.
but you're buying that studio for those, and people move on and stuff like that. But you would hope if you're buying a studio for the IP, then you should realize that the things that made that game great are the individuals that made that game.
Apparently, they bought the studio, moved them to internal, and they did no more front-facing work of like no individual releases, which that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they didn't own the IP, Bandai Namco did.
All right.
Um, so that's a problem. But come out with something that's basically that with a different name and some different elements. But I don't know
Right.
what's going on. Either
Yeah.
way, there's another one coming out.
We'll find out.
Yeah, it's in like a European studio too, which is why it's got all crazy, creepy shit.
Those
They're good at
Europeans and their
they're good
crazy
at
creepy
creepy.
shit.
Those nondescript Europeans from the country of Europe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good intro. What we've been playing. What say we move over to the retrospective corner?
Woo.
Welcome back to the retrospective corner once again. So good to see you. Let's talk about old video games.
Our
Now,
favorites.
our favorite old video game. Now, the one on our list this week was Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Quest, right?
Yeah, that
Um,
is correct.
just making sure that was the right name. Diddy Kong's Quest. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I decided on this one because I feel like I've played Donkey Kong Country loads of times, and this is one that I always heard was better, or if not just as good. And I just wanted to check it out, and it had pirates, and that's
Right.
totally my bag, baby.
Yeah, like the second I loaded up, it's like, man, Quinn's gonna love this one. I mean, I guess there's always sort of that underlying pirate thing going on.
Yeah,
With
they have like a tropical island environment, and K. Rool always brings that swashbuckling flavor to the table, I guess.
right.
Yeah,
This is all over the place for sure.
all over the place. Yeah.
Um,
So a little bit of background. Just kind of, I wanted to cover the Donkey Kong series in general. Nintendo sought they came up with this because they wanted to compete with Sega's Aladdin, which was kind of the biggest, one of the biggest platformers in the early 90s. 93 is when it came out. And so
crazy because that game is so hard.
the game's really freaking hard, but it, people loved it. And it
Yeah,
was, it was one of those, they made a good game and it just so happened to be an IP,
right.
a Disney IP. Um, so Nintendo went and found Rare in the UK and had them revive this dormant franchise, which, if you were familiar with the arcade version, you play as Jumpman, later named Mario. You jump over barrels and climb ladders to get to the top and save Pauline or whatever and fight Donkey Kong. But no, this was his move to being front and center. And so it was Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong that were the playable characters. and it was obviously inspired by Super Mario. But the big difference is that Donkey Kong Country used pre-rendered graphics through this compression technique that converted 3D models into the sprites of the
Right.
NES, the SNES, and you can tell, that's it's why it looks so unique, but at the same time
Right.
hasn't aged wonderfully because some of the
Yeah.
pixels just feel a little blown out.
Yeah. We're
Um,
extremely blown out, right?
yeah,
I mean, I guess it has its charm, but I've never really been a fan of that. Like, even when it wasn't so archaic, I was still like, this just
yeah.
looks weird to me.
I think it was one of those half steps to the 64 because it was toward the end of the Super Nintendo's life. It was in I think 1993 or 94 when the first one came out. But it really blew people's minds because that 2.5D, it does look very interesting at first. And I guess at the time, when you're so used to looking at flat backgrounds and images, even with the not 2D side scrollers, it can be really a game changer.
It feels a lot more alive
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
time period, definitely.
yeah. You got stuff going on in the background, all that. It sold 9.3 million copies too, and it's still like the third best-selling game on the Super Nintendo, and the best-selling Donkey Kong game still to this day, even including the Switch titles and all of that, which kind of take on the same format
Right.
as those old games.
Yeah, but playing this one, I feel like those are. I don't exactly know what's gone wrong because those are like more grueling, and just this is better, right? Like I can
It's
see why people would say this is definitely one of the best
it's
Donkey Kong
good.
games.
It's
It is
really
good.
good.
It is good, and it feels fair while still being challenging.
It's not too challenging though. I mean, granted, I I did use the handicap of save states because
Right,
ain't nobody got time for that. I'm not, you know, game overing and going through levels I've already beat. No, I'm saving. I only saved between levels. I still made myself get through the levels,
right.
but I mean, it's
No, you're
2023.
you're a coward. I get it.
Yeah, I like to respect my own time. And yes,
No,
I am
I'm
a
I'm
coward.
I'm I'm kidding. The saving in that game is pretty archaic, right? Like
You
it
get
even
to a new
cost
place, yeah.
past saving once, it even costs like a coin. I mean, I guess that's not a big deal, but
You get
I,
them everywhere, but it almost feels like you have to grind out coins sometimes to have like a stockpile to where you can do all the mini games and everything.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't play till I got a complete game over. Does it? I don't even know how that works. And that
I
does it
didn't
just
get
go back to
one.
your last save? Yeah, I don't know.
No, it like I kind of just had enough lives throughout the whole thing since I gave myself a personal challenge of just getting through the level without losing, or yeah, I mean just getting through the level. So I don't know. I think it goes back to your actual save. So if you saved when you got to the new island or new
Right.
world,
Normally, like halfway through, you kind of unlock
yeah.
the save point.
And then anytime you want to go back to that and save again, you have to spend 2 coins, and it's just like I'm not dealing with that. I want to
Right.
see as much of this game as possible. Um, so anyway, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy Kong's Quest came out in 1995, 2 years or so after the first one. Still developed by Rare, still on the Super Nintendo. The big change this time was you played as Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong, and you're rescuing Donkey Kong, who's been kidnapped by K. Rool. So you're actually going to K. Rool's island. That's the reason that it's all swashbuckling and
Right.
pirate base and everything. You're essentially just attacking the big fortress mountain island of K. Rool, and I like that so much better. It feels, I don't know. It's just got that. Every time you go to a level, you have a strong idea of how you're getting through all of these areas to get to the end.
It's got a
Not that
very good theme going to it. Yeah.
very strong theme. Yeah,
Yeah.
still uses that
And that
silicon graphics
that
technology.
opening song, you know, it's an absolute banger for sure.
I have a note here that says the music slaps, and that's all
Yeah,
I.
it does,
Did
right?
anyone else say it's just good? It's just
Yeah,
all good.
yeah. I don't, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Especially, I really like when you're in the like the mining sort of levels.
Like the lava-ish
Not
ones.
the lava-ish ones, the ones where literally it has like mine carts and mineral
Oh yeah,
backgrounds and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and
Typically
they're like
more vertical levels, actually. Now that I
yeah, and they're
think
like
about it.
sparkling and shining, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah, all
yes,
that. Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say, love the setting, great thematic pacing with the levels. Starting on a pirate ship, reaching land, going through like sunken pirate ship levels, going through bogs where there's still always this same you feel like you're in the same world, not that
Right.
you're like some Mario games, you're jumping between worlds that are completely disconnected. These all feel
Right.
connected. Um, I will say some of that theme stuff can drag on a little long. Like when I was in the magma lava crater level,
Yeah.
by the third time I was like, I'm so done with this. Like I'm tired of
Yeah. A llama. And then
avoiding
they
these.
throw in
Yeah,
some weird sort of sunken lava ship where you jump on seals to make them spit in the
cool the
lava
water
so
down.
it cools the water down. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of
This is very
really
weird.
interesting mechanics like that where you're not just using the mechanics of the characters, you're the animals you're finding and the different things you could do. I don't remember Donkey Kong Country having as much of that. This feels really expanded in terms of like every level we're going to give you something interesting to look at and
Right.
and do. And that seal thing was a perfect example. It was tough because basically the water is just getting to like red boiling consistency and you have to hurry up and get out of it. Normally a water level is a water level. You stay in the
Right.
water, you go through to the end. This one you're like jumping out of the water and cooling it down and jumping back in the water. It just feels very dynamic.
Even though it's done in a very weird way.
Yeah, my problem with that one was I have no idea where I'm going and I don't know how to get all these little special coins that I'm
Yeah, I
seeing.
think that's mainly the big thing, right?
That's the
Like it's
rub.
not hard to go from point A to point B, but to get the little things along the way. But I couldn't really figure out the timing for the
Yeah.
water turning hot anyway.
That one's tough. I mean, like you play the first level and it sets it up and it gives you this false sense of confidence where you're like, "Oh, I can get the DK coin at every level." And then you
Right,
get to the next island and you're like, "I don't even know where these things are."
right,
And I mean, you can explore by falling through a secret hole and doing that. You can explore by getting a flying thing and doing, there sometimes there's whole upper areas of the levels that you don't even see
yeah.
because you're not exploring. Um,
There is a lot of like exploring going on, right?
a
And I feel like
ton.
Donkey Kong has always had that to an extent, but yeah, I mean this one definitely seems to take it to a whole other level.
I think so. And you can see that in the characters too, because while in the first one, Donkey Kong, I think his significance was that he was bigger and stronger, and so he could take on any of the enemies.
Right.
Because there are enemies in here where you have to pick up a box or
And yeah,
a bomb and throw it at them, which I like too, because it you plan out your approach a little bit. And then Diddy was always the more agile one. In this one, Diddy's still super agile and quick, can turn on a dime. Um, but Dixie is awesome.
yeah, I was
That's
about to say she's kind of a beast, right?
she's
Like
awesome.
like the same thing as
Where
Diddy,
she
but she
can
could add like
hover.
helicopter. Yeah,
And so she's
it's
really good,
crazy.
I find, for exploration and cleaning up all that stuff and grabbing the things that you may have passed up.
Right,
While I found him really good for challenging platforming sections because I could just quickly, ping pong back and forth. Or during boss fights, he's really good because he's faster.
right.
Yeah, but she's awesome. She's my girl.
I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest. I wonder if I wonder. why they decided to put her in the game. I mean, especially at a time where, I mean, video games have been a boys' club for it still is.
Yeah.
Not saying it's right. Um, Especially at that time, put in
Well,
a strong female character.
I guess, 95 was probably, I can't remember exactly, but it was probably very different for entertainment, toys, all that stuff. I think they were approaching a time where, mid 90s, I can remember women characters or girl characters and figures being a lot more prominent. And I don't know, this one,
That is
like,
true. Maybe
maybe, I mean, I'd have to go watch, like,
I
Remember the
need a
90s or
yeah. I need
something.
like a documentary or something.
Yeah, yeah. But like I think in the third one, it's Dixie and someone else. So they continue that trend of changing the character each game. And even in the new ones, you have like Funky Kong and some other people. I don't know. Um, but yeah, she's great.
Yes.
Some nitpicks. I did find a lot of the same hitbox issues were still here, like in the first one. And I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
that just might be a graphics thing.
yeah. I mean, is that something that they even now still have right? No, not really.
No, it's
The
harder when
problem
you have
is
large
it's a
sprites.
box. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have the large sprite, and then its hitbox is a box around it, and
Yeah.
it's going to be skewed kind of greatly. Um,
Mario tends to be this compact little figure, while the Kongs have limbs and they spin and
a
twirl
lot
and
of
all
it.
that stuff. And yeah, I guess that's
It's
just
best to
part
just
of
give
it.
everything like a wide berth, right?
Ye- But I
Or you're
mean,
going to get hit.
God, when you're in a boss fight and you have one hit left, and you're just like, that shit didn't touch me. I hate you. Like when I was
Right?
fighting, did you fight the sword?
No, is
Ugh,
that
I got so mad. It's at the end of the mines and the lava
right? The
levels.
lava level. Yeah, I was at like the last level of that basically, and then I died a bunch to something. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna
It's
take a
just
little break.
it's just a floating sword like from Castlevania, um, and it's
Yeah.
got the weirdest hitboxes.
You know what ate up so many of my lives was the freaking balloon level. You know where you hop on the balloon and you gotta like you basically ride the air balloon.
I died so many times before I figured out that you could move them because
Really? What
that
were you doing?
I was hopping from them and using Dixie. And so
I
when she was gone, I was like, how am I supposed to beat this level? There has to be something I'm missing. And
yeah
eventually it just edged and it moved. I'm like,
yeah I died like once and then I hopped on and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Right? Because
yeah,
I was playing Diddy at the time
yeah.
anyway, and I was just like, I don't know. I was like pressing every little button, and then yeah, eventually I just pressed forward. I was like, wait a minute, it's moving,
Yeah, no,
and
I
then I
was like,
proceeded to die a bunch of times getting through the whole thing.
right. I was like helicoptering or I was like jumping off of other enemies. And somehow I got all the way up to where you had the rhino. And once I got on with the rhino, I was like, there's no way I'm supposed to just like kill the rhino to get over there. Like Yoshi it off the into the abyss. And so then I inched and it started moving. I'm like, son of a bitch. Of course there's something I
Well,
just totally
kudos to
missed.
getting that far, right?
I
You
was like,
know,
I don't feel like I'm doing this
speed
right.
run strats.
Right? Yeah, that was a pain, especially when you have to go through all the hornets. And those are the ones where the hitboxes are ridiculous because sometimes you really have to the flying hornets, you have to like barely get by them to get a coin or
Yeah,
something, and you're like, I'm gonna get hit, I'm gonna get hit. No.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, so there is some
There's
stuff
even
like that.
one part where they have the one of the letters, and it's like literally letter at the top.
Red leather,
B,
yellow leather.
yeah, B or Hornet, then another balloon for some fucking reason,
Yeah.
then Hornet,
Another
right?
B.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, how what is this? I don't understand this
I
puzzle at all.
I think I know exactly the spot you're talking about. What I did was, since I had both Dixie and Diddy, I
The
picked
sacrifice one.
no, I didn't, and I also didn't know until this level that you could pick
Uh,
up the extra character
yeah.
barrels. If you have both characters, you could just use them as
Oh,
throwables. Didn't
right,
know that. So I picked that up, jumped on the balloon, and killed like two of the hornets with
right.
it, and then I went and I was able to do it.
Mm,
So there is a lot of that where either you can take multiple approaches or you just kind of have to work out what they want you to do based on clues. And there's a lot of secrets and arrows pointing you to, oh, there's a challenge over here. And the challenge rooms are
right.
also really cool because you're like, go find the coin in 30 seconds. And it doesn't it doesn't even really penalize you that much if you fail because you can get back to it and do it again. So it's not like
Yeah.
that Mario has a lot where, oh, you missed your chance to do that. You have to play the whole level over again to try and get that secret.
Yeah, I really just felt like the entire game was a lot more fair,
Hmm.
comparably to all the other platforming games in that time period, right? Like, let's look at, Aladdin. That game is tough, like one of the toughest games I've probably ever played, at least from my recollection. I mean, Mario definitely has his moments. I mean, it's all memorization, but it punishes you pretty greatly for
Well, and
failing.
and Mario wants that speed kind of,
Yeah,
um, not like Sonic speed, but like you want to constantly be moving and jumping. This one sometimes I'm like, let me go this way and let me.
yeah. It's more like it's telling you to take your time, a
Yes.
lot of the times, and just work things out, right, rather than speed through the level.
Well, and there is no timer in these games, and
Yeah.
a lot of the time in something like Mario, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to, unless you're just not paying attention, it's usually not going to catch up with you. But it doesn't really seem to be a thing here. It's like, oh, just go to the level, see all the things you can see,
Yeah,
collect everything. It's more,
relax.
it feels like the birth of that collectathon, how Donkey Kong went on to become that of here's an open world, go find all the bananas and coins and this and that and the things that ignited the dopamine in our 8-year-old brains.
Yeah. If I did have one gripe, and maybe I just didn't know how to do it, I wish you could switch your characters at will.
You press the select button.
Really.
Yep, I found out by accident.
See, there you go. I got no gripes then.
I
None.
was also like, how do you do this? And then I went to go save, and because save on my Odin is select R1
Right.
is like my quick save, it switched characters. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
of course, it's
there we
Super
go. So
Nintendo.
there's the
They
way.
still map things to select for some reason or
Yeah.
start. It's like whenever you go open up a game and you're like, A. What's wrong with this thing? And then you see it says press start, and you're like, oh my god,
So just
what?
any button,
Any but literally any button,
No, gotta press start.
six access, just start.
Start.
um, oh, another gripe I had if we're doing gripes is I can get used to the hitbox thing. The freaking platform edge crap makes me
Right.
so, especially when you're really trying to make a jump and you hit it, but because it's
Slip.
the edge, you just go right
Yeah.
through it
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's not really a platform, it's just detail on a platform.
Right. And there's a lot of like forward momentum even when you land, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is frustrating. Sometimes
Just go
you
whoop.
will, yep, right off.
You're like, oh great, great, great.
Again,
And
not as like hair pulling as some things can be. Uh
no. But
but
it seems to catch at the worst moment. You're just like, oh come on.
yeah. Especially
Or when
again
you're
whenever
trying to,
you're doing some of those more vertical levels, like the mining levels, and you just
yeah.
fall and fall and fall and fall. You're like, well, F it.
Yeah,
Restart the whole level.
and when you're like a more modern game would have pulled me into that barrel or would have pulled me to catch that because
There's definitely a bit of
It's just
snapshotting involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not fun having like a hair miss.
Right.
That never feels good in any game. Um, so yeah, but it's what it is if that's the worst thing compared to what we were complaining about with Dino Crisis, and let's really get into it, Gex
Yeah.
64.
This
There's
was like a way better platformer,
I was just
right?
like I turned it on, I was like, this game is so good.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was
but that's something I
exactly
was
what I
definitely having
needed.
fun for sure.
Yeah, and it was something that wasn't, you didn't have to think too hard. It was
No.
really just we got to play a straight up video game.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely what it was. That's definitely what it is.
What did he? Um, let's see. I do want to give another shout out to the variety of platforming though, because I really feel like this game's mission is to never let you get too bored with, you know, here's a
There's
level A to B, here's another level A to B.
yeah,
It's like, we're going up. What did we do last time we went up? Let's go down.
yeah. Now let's ride on a balloon. Now let's swim. You know,
Now
it
let's use
it
a
does have a good
spider.
variety.
Yeah. Like
The
when I got
spider thing, it actually took me a solid minute to figure out that there was a different web type, right? That you could shoot up to make platforms, and B,
yeah.
you had to hit the button twice. Like you shoot it and then you hit it for it to stop and make a platform.
Well, I just found that out now, so
Oh yeah, so it like the whole thing because you're going to the first level with the spider, and there's a lot of area above
vertical
you.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was just like, I don't understand how you get that. I try to like jump and jump off of it. Yoshi jump and all
That's
that
what I
good
was
stuff.
doing, and I gave up, and I was like, it's probably something
Yeah.
I'm not thinking of.
No, so there is a web that you just like shoot forward that damages enemies, and then I think it's A or B. The other button, you shoot out a slower web, right? That just goes along, and then if you press the button again, it'll stop and it makes like a platform, and you can
Oh.
do that infinitely. You can even press like up and forward, and it'll shoot up like that.
Damn, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I actually might stick with this and
which
try to
is
beat
still
it.
weird.
So it's good. Good to know all that stuff because
Yeah,
I did when I wasn't on like a time crunch, like wanting to get as far into the game as possible.
yeah,
I because normally I would have gone back and replayed those levels to get those collectibles and everything, and it really is just for percentage completion. But I do that until I don't want to anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Anything
did
else?
find myself just kind of running through it just because I was
I
just like,
mean,
okay, need to see as much as this game as possible.
I explored when I really could not explore. I was like, no, I have to see what's up there. Or I was so close to getting that coin, I'm going to get it. So
Right.
I did enough. But yeah, for the most part, I was like, I wanted to see all of the levels. Yeah. And apparently the last one is like this carnival roller coaster world, which I would really like to see.
Yeah, that would be cool. Also, can we talk about how great Diddy Kong Racing was?
Again, yes.
Yeah, so anything with Diddy is just like good, right?
Yeah, let's take the concept of a 2D platformer and expand it into like a almost Metroidvania-esque 2D
Yeah,
platformer, like
it's got a
light.
little bit of that going on. Yeah,
Let's take a kart racer and turn it into an action adventure game.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Why did the Diddy franchise die out? What happened?
What did happen? I don't know. Oh yeah, Donkey Kong 64 happened.
Yes. But Nintendo brought it back and
I know.
made one of the best Donkey Kong games of all time, according to people online. I haven't played it. It looks really hard.
The newer one, right?
Yeah.
For
Oh
Switch.
wait, I did play it. I played it on Wii U co-op with JV,
Yeah, so
and it's
that
very hard.
it is. It is really hard. That was like I was playing. I was kind of expecting that sort of experience.
But it's
But
punishing.
it's not. Yeah, and I don't even now like looking at like this game. I'm like, why is this punishing? I understand there's games like Cuphead and stuff like that have come out and people really enjoyed that, but I don't think Donkey Kong really needs to be that. you know.
No, no.
Like I'm all for trial and error and all that good stuff, everything that's like platform games, but this is grueling
Yeah, yeah.
at parts. It's like I don't.
They did have the Funky Kong mode where it's easier. So,
Yeah, but you know,
yeah. Um,
for
God,
cowards.
now I'm just thinking. I know our tendency is to just immediately talk about remakes, but I could see a good up-resed, almost be like Paper Mario style remake. You know, like something weird. Nintendo is always good at doing those weird, quirky visual styles. Like,
Right.
Yoshi was wool and Kirby was yarn at some point and Paper Mario and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
They could be like
some
stuffed animal monkeys.
instead of just like a 3D kind of esque,
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
as opposed to sprites like 3D model, 2D um
yeah.
remake sort of thing, something artsy.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, I was like, there's really not a huge reason to remake these games when they are making, well, they were making Donkey Kong platformers and they might continue. Just make new ones. But if you were to revitalize it in a new style, Zelda with the toy diorama set with Link's Awakening, that kind of
Right.
stuff. It'd be cool.
It would be.
Um, I thought it would be cool for us to talk about what makes a good 2D platformer.
I don't know.
Um, I mean,
I don't know if I know how to answer that question,
I
right?
mean, you got the big ones, which is challenge. It needs to be somewhat challenging. Otherwise, you have like a Yoshi problem on your hand where a lot of Yoshi games are, you know, boring because there's
Right.
not much challenge to
Yeah,
them.
there's not much challenge, yeah.
The big one I picked out was in this day and age, interesting visuals, and I'm including background visuals in that, as I think if you have something that's giving you more depth
Yeah,
and I thought about Little Nightmares with that, how there's so much detail going on in the background and there's stuff that you can gain from it. And there's a lot of creativeness where, sometimes you'll be playing through a 2D level and maybe the boss will fly behind you while you're making your way through it. And then by the time you get to the end there, Sonic was always really good at doing stuff like that.
Sonic was really good at doing that. Games like Ori come to mind too.
Hmm.
That it's so I guess the aesthetics are just crazy, really, in that game. And
Yeah,
help drive it so much.
I know. Yeah, Ori is impressive when it comes to visuals.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's part of like it's like that environmental storytelling. And just in a kind of a whole different way, I guess. Um,
well, you're right because you don't want to stop the momentum,
right.
obviously, because when you have a 3D game, you can go interact with things and have conversations, but a 2D game, when you stop and do a bunch of dialogue, you kind of kill the
Right.
momentum of the thing.
And this really just sh- paints the world, and then you have the idea of like the bird and everything that comes out, and it's all visually and aesthetically pleasing, I guess. I don't know.
Tantalizing,
Yeah, tantalizing.
aesthetically
Yes,
tantalizing.
yes. There we go.
What would
Perfect.
you what would you say your favorite 2D platformer is, classic or modern?
I don't know. I feel like it's such a love-hate relationship for me. Well, what do we do? Are we like is Metrovania's there in the list, or you mean more typical? We can move forward. I don't even remember
I
if
think I'm
Ori, if we can go
thinking
back or
level
not.
based for
Right.
this. I mean,
Oh,
or
yeah.
I see why
So
you thought
there
of
was a
Ori
little
for sure.
game back in the day uh called for the Sega Genesis. I'm pretty sure I have mentioned it here. It's
If you say Sonic, I'm gonna shut the
yeah,
podcast
it's
down.
a little game called Sonic the Hedgehog. Have you ever heard it?
Ugh. Legend of the Dragoon.
Yeah, no, Hetty for the Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah,
I
Hetty. I remember.
played that game so much. Such a weird freaking game, but it was actually very, very good. Very
Yeah,
fun.
I didn't play it much, but I do remember Eddie. Um, I think my first. I'm trying to think. I think one of my big 2D platformer firsts was
I don't even know
Yoshi's
if you can call that a
Story.
platformer. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think.
It's more like you fight a lot of bosses and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. But like Mega Man, I would call that a platformer.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, in that case, with Mega Man, Mega Man's my favorite.
Which one?
Probably like X, right? It's 10. 10 was great.
Uh, that's the Super Nintendo launch, right? Or
Or was that for?
X is the one where it got more anime, and
Yeah,
you start off in that
yeah. It
bridge,
was
that
for Super
card
Nintendo.
city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's maybe not the first one. Maybe 8 or so. You start to see some of the like the power suit stuff. The
Yeah.
upgrades, like you can find like secret upgrades and to your suit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's when it really starts to get more anime. Of course, it starts the X series, which like
Mhm.
X4 would probably be one of the most well-known ones.
They're
Um,
just so hard. I mean, the X series I find isn't as hard
yeah,
as the
the
1 through
originals.
8
Yeah.
or 9, 10. I don't know.
Well, it's just you need to find that first boss that you can really beat. Obviously, some are just easier than others. There's typically one that's like easier that can kind of get you started along that route,
Mhm.
but that's not always even the one that you can kind of just beat first.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's just a boss that you're just more comfortable with, and you beat. Once you get that, you start steamrolling through.
That's true. And every time I load up a Mega Man game, I should just look up the order, and I
Yeah,
don't, and I just go, "This is too hard. I'm out."
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, it's like a lot of times, like there's no shot you're gonna beat this level or definitely this boss without his weakness. There's like no
mhm.
way.
No, you'll just be, hitting a big tank for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
You'll
yeah,
be like doing chip damage, and he'll be like one shotting you. So
yeah,
good luck.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't really catch on to the Marios until later. Like I played Super Mario World, but not a lot until I was a little bit older. Definitely played more of Donkey Kong because I had a Super Nintendo, and around that time when that came out. But Yoshi's Story was really the one that, and that's a 2D platformer, I think, but it's a 64 game and it's more of the 3D era. But that just showed me a game that could be more than just reflex and challenge and all that stuff. It's like, no, you can have more pleasing visuals and mechanics, like the egg thing and collecting the different color Yoshis, and that game was just really fun.
Yeah,
Something more modern, I think Shovel Knight is one of the best platformers ever made, and
really.
if you haven't played it, you have to. It's very good. Um, and the story around that studio is just kind of insane. It was crowdfunded, and they just kept pumping out extra content for it. If you play it now, you have 3 different campaigns. Like, no, you have 4. You have Shovel Knight, and then there's like 3 other the bosses that you actually fight. 3 of them you can play as them in their own campaigns, and so there's just a ton of game there, and the platforming is really interesting and well done. So,
I've never like I guess I've played it briefly at your house, right? I thought
oh
that was
yeah,
more like Metrovania.
no, that's A to B platforming. It's just really hard.
Yeah,
Um,
always
yeah,
seems to
and
be the theme with like modern platformers, which I'm
I
kind of just like,
yeah, and that was definitely the indie, kind of one of the big indie explosions where it
yeah,
got big. I did have to do the last like 25% of that game co-op because I just couldn't get past it. I was just like, this is really hard. So Blaine
right.
and I beat that game, but it's very good. It's a
I
great co-op game too.
yeah. I feel like I always have such a love-hate relationship when it comes to platforming in general. Like you know me. I'm pretty sure I've had you do like jumps in games for me because I'm just like I can't do
Yeah.
it, right? Like
That was definitely one of my stronger areas.
yeah, where I don't know. I'm a second guesser. You know, it's kind of one of those things you just need to go. I mean, of course I've done a lot of beat a lot of games, but
Yeah.
it is always so
Nerve
um
wracking.
yeah, nerve wracking. And there's just certain instances where I'm just like, this is more frustrating for me than it is
Yeah.
fun. So when you start to add just more more and more difficulty to that experience, I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore, you know?
Yeah. I think it's helped by modern quality of life things
Of course.
like not slipping off of corners because, it's a little more fair, and save spots and checkpoints are a lot more generous these days. They find, I think a lot of those games incorporated elements like the Souls features or other ways to penalize you other than 3 lives until a game over, because games don't really do that anymore.
Right.
It's archaic. And now it's just like, oh, you'll just lose a little bit of this and have to go get it back. Whatever.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I definitely get what you mean. Um, and 3D platformers was a whole different ball game
And
when it
that was a
came
whole
to
different
depth
ballgame.
perception and making tight jumps and stuff,
So
for
it's like
sure.
looking at things like Gex, I'm like, how how do we ever even attempt some of this stuff? You know,
We
it's
didn't know any better.
like this camera angle is so ridiculous. Why would I ever subject myself to this as a child? I don't.
No, it's like you need to make this really hard jump, but for some reason the platform above is like blocking out 75% of the camera, so you just kind of have to wing it.
Yeah, just have to wing it. I don't know. I guess that's why I never really beat Gex back in the day. You know, we beat the
I
ones
never
that
beat
worked a
it.
little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. Banjo-Kazooie,
Yeah.
wonderful 3D platformer.
And then Glover didn't even know what the hell was going on in that game. Eh.
They're remaking that or something. I don't, or
Oh yeah, I
re-releasing that.
think yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing
Some
something about
random
that.
studio scooped up Glover because the world has
One
really been a bad place since Glover's absence.
It's like, hey, y'all like you know, bad camera angles and jumping on platforms and missing it a million times? Well, how about
And
doing that while bouncing on a ball?
also, like, tank controls
Oh
in
yeah.
a effing platformer
Uh,
because you just want to die.
eh,
Well, you want to talk about some releases of the time?
if you had the list, yeah, sure.
I do. I do.
Oh,
I
okay,
did. I
cool.
did make
Oh,
one.
cool. I was like, oh shoot, was I supposed to do this?
What do you
I
got?
screwed up.
No, no, no. I got it. All right. So, other popular releases of 1995, we have Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island.
Hard to beat, right?
I almost said story.
Yeah, Yoshi's Story.
Yeah, and again, and I know I talked about Yoshi's Story on 64, but this was definitely one that showed a lighter side of platforming on the Super Nintendo. It was a much easier situation than both Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country.
Right.
This
Maybe that was
was
just the theme of this year, and it was kind of like, you know what? Let's just make some games that are just a little bit easier for the family, you know, for everybody.
right. Well, apparently Diddy Kong's Quest was tough. Was supposed to be tougher than the first one. I don't remember enough
Yeah, I
to
don't. Yeah,
tell, but it could be. I don't know. There's some sadists out there just like make my Mario harder.
yeah. Oh yeah. Um, that's like half the gaming community is that.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
got Chrono Trigger.
good game,
Good.
great game.
It's always nice to see just a wonderful RPG in
Yeah,
the middle of a year like 1995. Just to remember that, I don't know. How cool would it have been to play that in 1995? Like that's like when it came out, all
right.
you know is the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, and you get freaking Chrono Trigger dropped in your lap.
Yeah, when you think about it, in uh, I guess from when it came out, all right, and what it has been out before that, a couple Final Fantasies, little things here and there, right?
Yeah.
Playing that game, it's got to be like, what the hell is this, right? There's like so much here, so
Yeah, I
much
always
depth.
it's those types of games that I look back and I'm like, I played this after I had already played like Kingdom Hearts or
Yeah,
something. Like it was so
yeah.
late and I could see
And
the
it's
benefit.
still like it still holds up, you
It's
know.
great, but I would give anything to experience that like, wow,
Yeah,
holy shit.
yeah, yeah. It would have been a big whoa.
Yeah.
But
We
hey,
all
Kingdom Hearts was our whoa. That's just how it goes, you know.
we had different woes.
And we did.
Um, we had Twisted Metal PlayStation release, I think. Yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
was never a Twisted Metal gal.
It was I mean they're not bad.
It's a good party game.
It is.
Yeah.
They were fun back in the day.
Yeah.
Interesting concept. But I don't know.
Of a
I don't
time.
yeah. That well no, extremely of the time. Like they just made a show or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got who's voicing Sweet Tooth as Will Arnett
Yeah.
and Anthony Mackie? I don't
But
know.
the guy that did yeah, I can't think of names right now.
From the MCU, is it Anthony
Yeah.
Mackie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so we got that. Street Fighter Alpha.
Ooh.
I cannot keep up with the turbos and the alphas. I don't know. That's your area of expertise, I
Yeah, I
guess.
know. I'll have to figure all that one out.
You let me know. Just let me know what the best
Yeah.
Street Fighter was of the Super Nintendo generation.
I'm pretty sure it was Street Fighter Alpha 3. Street Fighter 3 Alpha was the one that everybody like really, really liked,
Yeah, but
right?
then you go to like a
But
GameStop or a card shop and they're
I
like,
don't know.
that game is trash. You
Yeah,
want
I
to
know.
play
I could have just said something completely wrong and then,
offensive.
yeah, how dare I?
Yep. After that, we have Comics Zone,
Okay.
which,
That's a tough game.
tough game, but really just still a very impressive visual style,
Yeah,
which we were
definitely.
talking about earlier, but I haven't played enough of it to have a strong opinion. We got Kirby's Dream Land 2.
Ooh. Do love me some Kirby's actually.
I do love Kirby. Kirby is comfort. I don't
Yeah.
know. That
And
last one,
cool.
yeah, it's cool. That last one's good. Um, Definitely harken back to like the Crystal Shards style
Yeah.
64, which is one of my favorite 64 games. Mega Man 7, just to give you some
Okay. Getting
context of where we
there.
were with Mega Man. Yeah. X is coming up in a little
Yeah.
bit, I guess. um, did you play 7?
So once upon a time, I definitely played all of them. I can't say that I beat all of them, but I think I beat like a good bit. It was a long time ago. Uh, an old friend of ours named Sam literally had all of them, and he let me
Mm,
borrow just
every
every
single
one. Yeah, every
wow.
single one to that point in time, which was up to like probably X5. I don't know.
There is a
So I
ludicrous
just
amount of Mega
yeah
Man games.
sat there and played them. You know?
I mean, it's just such a insane amount of games
Oh
in the
yeah,
Mega Man series.
yeah.
What
So many.
just
I guess they were
consistent.
relatively easy to make, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're repurposing a lot of assets, but and that was the case with a lot of games, but I mean, Mario didn't come out that frequently. Um, and maybe that was intentional, but it was like Mega Man every year. It was another Mega Man.
Right.
It was the Call of Duty of the 90s.
It was. But
Um,
still, great games.
yeah, I'll beat one eventually.
Eventually.
We
I
got
wouldn't suggest X4. That one's actually really tough.
really. I'm gonna beat X. I think that's the one that's always been one of my white whales.
Yeah. I'll definitely check that out. And yeah, I mean, just literally just look up the order.
Boss
You'll
guide.
probably
Yeah.
have it like a lot easier of a time. Once you get rolling in that game for
Why couldn't
sure.
they just print those mnemonic devices or whatever on the box where, we in school when we needed a grammar rule or like a math rule, we'd have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally or something. We
Yeah,
should just make those for Mega Man bosses.
you're right. You do water guy, then fire guy. Well, that doesn't make sense. We're doing demonic stuff.
Wherefore art thou?
Yeah.
Okay, after that we have Rayman.
Okay.
Never
Getting
played.
weird.
Never played it.
I want to say we
Virtual.
played Rayman 2 or something. I don't know.
I played a Rayman at some point on PlayStation, but it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, Virtua Fighter.
Nice. Weird game. Nice.
Weird game. Mortal Kombat 3.
Mortal Kombat.
Which I'm trying to remember. This might be the one that. See, I always thought I played the first one, but looking at the roster on this one, I
You
think
probably played
either
the third one.
MK2 or MK3. And I definitely played on my friend's Genesis, who lived next door.
I want to
So
say MK3 is when the roster kind of exploded.
is that when Noob
Uh,
Saibot showed up?
Yeah, like before that, I don't think they had half the people they have now. But I don't know.
I think, yeah, I think that was. I don't know. Yeah, MK3. That's definitely the one I played the most of.
Yeah.
And then we got Earthbound.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought, wait, what? I would assume that came out way before. Wait, Chrono Trigger and Earthbound released in the same year?
1995, yep. And
Okay.
actually, Earthbound released in Japan the year before. So this was America's Earthbound release. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, and Chrono Trigger was 1995.
Wait. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Also, both of those games this year, that's
Mm,
crazy.
hold on.
Matt's
I'm confused
reconstruction.
now because like Mother, right,
Hmm.
which is Earthbound, that was
Yes.
released in '89.
That was, I think, the NES one. But when they came out
Oh,
with the
right, right,
Super Nintendo
right.
one,
Did they
so
rename?
Earthbound is technically Mother 2, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. That makes a little bit more sense to me. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Mother 2 Gyuig Strikes Back. I don't know how to pronounce that. Gigas.
I crave
Anyhow.
violence, Mother.
All right, that's it. That's what we got. We did it.
Hey, we did it.
Hope you all enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed looking back at Donkey Kong Country 2. If you did, it's going to be Matt's turn to pick the next game. So I might put on social media what that is once we have a chance to chat about it.
Yeah.
But again, send your questions to thenerdinggrounds@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and if you want the audio podcast, I actually saw that it's been popping up on a lot more apps. So more than Spotify, if you listen to it, Podcast Republic or anything else, you can subscribe on there. And our TikTok channel. We are posting clips weekly to TikTok and trying to make them funny.
I mean, it comes naturally to some of us.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great week/weekend and be kind to one another.